Roll call, please.
Ira Hawkins,
Here.
Pat Kelly,
Here.
Bill Latrell,
Here.
Jamie Arnold,
Here.
Joanne Lang.
Okay, first thing on the agenda would be the approval of the agenda as presented.
I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second that.
Got a motion and a second to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor? 3-0. All right, approval of the minutes of June 8th and June 18th.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes from June 8th and June 18th.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the minutes of June the 8th and June the 18th. All those in favor? 3-0. All right, we have one guest, that's Sarah James, in reference to the Boy Scout building. Just come on up.
Great, thanks, guys. Let me share.
Thank you.
All right, I'm excited to share with you guys tonight our plan.
Thank you.
All right, we all know for growth to happen and for big things to happen, we often have to think outside of the box. So I want you to kind of think outside the box with me tonight on what the normal is for the Boy Scout building. And I think it helps a little bit knowing that they're happy where they're at, that they're not needing to use it as a building anymore. So we get to kind of think outside the box and kind of reimagine what it could be. And our committee has come up with a plan for it to transform that building into a thrift store that will benefit our community and help our town out. So I want to just kind of go over some of the ways that it's going to help our town out tonight and share that with you. We got to go in and take a look at it in the last couple of weeks. And I posted some pictures on the paper for you guys. I know they're black and white, so they're not great to see. But I didn't know if you had been in there recently to take a look at it or not. But it does need, it needs work. And so whenever we took a look at it, one thing right from the start is that we could help with the usefulness of the building. And we would be willing to put in up to $10,000 out of our committee into funding the improvements of that building. And things right off the bat we saw is that, new windows, air conditioning and heating in the building, insulation in the building, and then just cosmetic repairs. But we would like to be able to do that just because, even for the longevity of it. We found out last time the city, it's yours to keep, and that's a big donation, but it's also something that is upkeep for you too. So we would like to help out with that. Turning it into a thrift store helps our community. It brings back revenue into our community. It helps give others a good place to shop, a thrifty place to shop, a place that's a little more affordable, which is something that we're always looking for. But it also helps our committee. When we think of, we have these big ideas, we have these big projects, and if you hang around me at all, you find out that I'm all about big ideas and tackling them. So when we have these things that we want to do to help Granby, we also run into how are we going to pay for it? How are we going to make this happen? How are you going to, maybe you spend the money, but you have to have money to replace it. You have to have money coming back in to continue doing things. So the thrift store would be a way for us to accept donations and not have to pay out of pocket for things that we're selling. We'd accept those donations and be able to sell it and bring in revenue. It would go right back into Granby and helping grow Granby, which is huge. But not only that, when we look at it, we see it as a bigger thing. We're not the only nonprofit in the area. We have lots of nonprofits in this area. And so when we really looked at it, we would like to not just benefit our nonprofit, but we're going to need help, we're going to need volunteers. And we look at it as a monthly I'm gonna backtrack on things on this. So whenever we would begin the thrift store, we would need an employee to help run it. And we would want to keep cost down as low as possible. So we would rely a lot on volunteers. And you don't want to wear out your volunteers, you don't want to tire out your volunteers. So we would like to have a different nonprofit each month come in and volunteer. So let's say if June was the Lions Club, they would bring in volunteers for June, but they would also be given part of the revenue that comes in, would be donated to their nonprofit. So we would like to also help others in the area process of it. And then something that came about, an idea that I just thought was brilliant, was to use community bucks in the thrift store. And when we think about wanting to share pride for a community and find ways for people to help and people to volunteer, we have jobs around town just as simple as like picking up trash or things that need to be done. Community members could earn those bucks, those thrift store bucks, to be spent over in the thrift store for doing jobs around town. So we have some phases for making it happen. And we have 5 phases, and we'd like to update you guys monthly if we were to lease it out. The phase 1 would be cleaning up and then just assessing it, getting in there, getting the cleaning done, looking at what we'd have to have vetted out that maybe we couldn't do ourselves. We would then move into phase, and these are kind of fluid. It doesn't necessarily go phase 1, phase 2. They're more fluid, but remodeling, putting in new windows. Phase 3, the installation. Phase 4, heating and air. And then phase 5, the administration process of the applications and just all of the processes of how things happen. But our goal would be to complete this by the end of the year, have it up and going. Of course, with the goal to really be finished before that. But in exchange for this, we know the previous tenants had rented it for $1 a year. And so we would, since we're putting in that investment, we would like to keep with that. And we would like to have a 10-year lease on the building. We would be so excited to be able to do this.
Any questions, council? My biggest concern about anything that has to do with one of the buildings that the city owns is logistics. How do you navigate the finances from nonprofit to different? At what point does the city just have to step out of the way and let this thrift store happen and work like it should? How deep does the city be involved? I really don't want to be. I think the idea is a good one. Council, help me with this.
Do you plan on having us involved other than, like, is your group planning on running all of this, all of the administrative stuff? You're just gonna come back and report to us?
Yeah, so I don't see you having to be involved in that part of it either.
Same thing with the community bucks and everything, you guys are in charge of that, if you're not expecting like a city worker to keep tabs
No.
on that or anything like that.
I guess my only concern would be because it still is a city building, the economic development group would maintain their own insurances and stuff. That would cover their liabilities and anything that would happen and such. I think the Scout building stays nonprofit and works to help further the good of the community. And I like the idea of that. Like I said, I've been approached by individuals that would like to turn into something for profit. I'm just not sure of the intention of putting in the hands of the city was for a profit down there on in that facility anyhow. Now, my other question is that big enough for what you want to do?
I think we have to start somewhere. I think it's a good place to start. I can see if you start too big, our plan would be to be open Fridays, Saturdays. And I think that size of a building right now is really good for that. I think it gives us a good place to start, a good place to be able to manage it, stay on top of things. I mean, it would be great to grow to the point where we needed something bigger.
This is similar to the Faithful Friends and the
Yes.
Show.
And they're such a good resource for us, I think. I've already met with the director at Faithful Friends, and she is more than willing to help guide us through the process of what they've done in the Show and how they've set up their thrift store and just the whole process part of it to make it really run the way that it needs to run to be successful.
I don't know how the Boy Scouts in Granby work necessarily. I think there's a group of Boy Scouts that meet at the Church of God, and they're happy with that. I think there's a group of scouts also that were meeting in the church over by the school, and that kind of dissolved, and they're looking for a place. But I think city facilities, whether it be the community building or even possibly the senior center, would be an open place for them. I wouldn't have a problem with them using those facilities. But what do you think, council? I want to make something available to that group. It doesn't necessarily have to be this building that could be turned into a thrift store. Does somebody see something different there than the thrift building?
I have a couple questions here. Instead of 10-year lease, what happens, why not just do 1-year lease to make sure it goes well? Because they went ahead and somebody had some big ideas, and they didn't carry it through. And it'd be a heck of a deal to have a 10-year lease until you go ahead and figure out.
Well, Martin, I think the reason they're looking at the 10-year lease, because they're planning to invest some money into this 10 grand. So putting 10,000 into the building, they'd like to see a better opportunity to get things off the ground
From donations.
It would be from our committee.
from the committee.
And it would be, essentially more economic development or something, and name any liability insurance on that building if it was leased to you?
Well, like, as a renter of a business right now, I have to have that. So we would have to have that.
So you would have that, and it wouldn't be paid for out of city funds?
No.
So basically what you're saying is beyond just leasing it from us for this 10 years, you're not asking for any money from the city. What about maintaining the yard and stuff? Is that?
I can take care of that.
Ms. Shawn?
Oh, look at you.
Okay, so she's working with the Economic Development Committee to take care of that. That's interesting. Very good.
Well, that would take that off of the city crew, because I think the city crew mows that building right now.
Okay. Mr. Flynn?
Yeah, one thing we would ask is, of course, the city would maintain insurance on the building itself, but we would carry the liability.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the city, that'd come under city umbrella, it's the property of the city.
Property
Sure,
itself.
we already have.
sure, and the money's gonna go to the profit made.
So the profit, the revenue made from selling stuff at the thrift store is going to go to the committee to be able to use in funding projects, to bring more business to town, to bring, I even see it. That's definitely what we're there for, but also, when you want business to come to town, you have to have things happening in your community that people want to be a part of, that people, they want to eat here, they want to shop here, but they just want to enjoy being here. So I think that we have that opportunity to be able to help out with that, because, the city funds only go so far. And I think that's a place where we can come in, decide, and we can help out with that.
Sarah, didn't you say a portion of the profit would go to whatever organization was running it that week, or?
The month?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and we would definitely, we want to help Granby and East Newton nonprofits first. So that's who we would want to apply for it and look at first. What groups in our area here in Granby can we help benefit from it?
So basically what you're saying is you'll have an application process, and let's say, the East Newton Animal Coalition decides that they would like to do a fundraiser for the month, so they have volunteers that come in, you set them all up. Whatever their funding or whatever they raise that month, they get a percentage of, or something like that, is that what you're
Mhm.
proposing? Okay, so those haven't been set yet?
No, we haven't set any of that yet. But I think too, having that group come in for the month, they're gonna publicize it, they're gonna say, East Newton Animal Coalition gets part of the funds this month, come in and shop, come in and donate, and be part of it. And then you don't wear that group out. And that's where Neosho has struggled a little bit. Their volunteers have gotten tired and worn out. So if we can help a different group each month, also hopefully we can help them from getting too tired out of it.
Usually you find one or two people that get wore out. When you start a project, hopefully you can pick up volunteers. Seems like volunteers right now are just hard to find in certain areas. You may have,
Well, nonprofits are always looking for help and looking for a way to have that extra money to do what they need. So I think that would be a good place.
So will people be donating stuff for a thrift store, something like that? Or
And that's, I think it's another big positive. I mean, we all have stuff that we need to get rid of.
Yes.
And so it'll be a place too where we can donate things that we don't need anymore. If we're done with our yard sale and we didn't sell everything that we wanted to sell, we can come donate it.
for some reason, I just see a big massive pile of stuff that's been donated, and somebody happened to sort through this and make it look good. What am I missing here?
Well, we picture some type of a storage unit behind the shop because we would like to use the whole building as a place to sell and not take away from that area and have a separate, smaller building where we can store things, sort, and bring into the shop. So, yeah, I mean, you would have a massive pile if you didn't have a place. So that would be part of it, is us putting a little storage building of some type to store.
You've got all this stuff, and you're talking about a different nonprofit using it each month. So do they go in and take over whatever's left as their show to sell? or-
No, it would stay there at the building. They would be more of donating their time to helping keep the shop running for the month.
But you have an employee that's gonna be like there, making
Yes.
sure everything's.
So you'll have a steady employee that's employed by our nonprofit.
Somebody's gonna be pricing all this stuff, somebody's gonna be taking care of moving it and all that, people are gonna come in and buy it, but the profit's gonna be split kind of to the nonprofit that runs it that month.
Yes.
Okay.
So a portion will stay with the economic committee, and then a portion will go to that group that came in and donated their time that month.
Well, I think these ideas, I think, are working in different communities. I think they're working fine. I wanna get busy worrying about how things are gonna work, but that's not really our concern. Our concern is, do we give this group a chance to operate a thrift store in one of our buildings that have been donated to us? What they're asking is a 10-year lease at $1 a year, with them contributing 10 grand into the building. As I see it, right now, there's just absolutely nothing happening at the building, nothing. So, council, what's your thoughts?
In the building now, there's I don't know how it's working, but there's some restaurant equipment in there now. Place to cook stuff, and
Just a stove, I think.
are we gonna leave that, or is that all gone?
I think it's just
It's
Jim,
a-
it's just a stove, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, is that in?
There's
Okay.
an apartment stove and a fridge that says
And I-
something on the front of it.
So
Yeah.
no value there?
No, they're old.
Okay.
I think basically, in in my opinion, unless somebody can show me something different, I think it's a win-win for the city.
I think so. Quite frankly, anybody that came in and wanted to invest $10,000, I would expect them to want a lease of some sort, definitely. Otherwise, they're wasting their money
I
investing.
don't think the
in it.
lease hurts us any.
I don't think it does either. I like the idea of you guys coming back and reporting each month so that we know that there's actually progress going on. So that would be, would that just be something that we would put in our agenda each month that she's gonna be? or
Yeah, I'm not
whatever
sure if
the
it needs to
next-
be monthly, but it could be quarterly or something. I'm not interested in tying that up. But I think you guys have had to monitor your own monies. You know,
Yeah.
Surely you guys would at least keep the community, informed of what's going on, because this is pretty bad for it to
I
come
think
back.
so. I mean, I see it as a way to see change happening. With social media right now, you can start getting the word out about the thrift store coming, and people can see the process of the transformation and what it's gonna look like, and it builds excitement. And I think that we would want to share that whole process.
will it be a general overseer of the project, the thrift store, one general overseer of that? Or will it be the economic group as a whole overseeing the project?
Right now, I think we're planning on it as the economic group as a whole, and John Stover is our head of our committee. But I think what we've done so far is we all really pitch in and help out where it's needed. We're all really wanting to see some things happen and change, and so we have a group that's very motivated, very excited to just pitch in, put in the hard work, put in the dirty work, and help make things happen. When we had our dream session a few weeks ago, it was really neat to see. It was neat to have community input and to hear what Granby is wanting to see, and to be able to break down into some smaller groups. And just hearing all those ideas, it fuels us to, this is what our town's wanting. How can we make that happen? How can we help that happen?
I think there's residents in walking distance of that building that would take advantage of the thrift store, in my opinion. Unless somebody sees something I don't. I do think that Carrie, the city hall needs to reach out to the Klauses, make sure they have emptied all their stuff out of the building, turn the keys back in.
We have the keys.
You have it. What about the contents of the building? Is there anything left in there? Okay, but somebody might just double check that.
And they shut off utilities and then.
Okay.
Sarah, I'm hoping the refrigerator.
Just for the warning.
Danny?
We take a lot of stuff over to the show, and they told us this morning that they're running out of stuff. They can't get enough donations.
At the thrift store, the RLC store.
Okay.
What do you think is the reason for that? What's
Well,
the-
there are a lot of people in there buying it, that's the
Okay,
problem.
So there is a
They're-
Yes.
definite need.
They're turning the product, they're cleaning it up, they're making it look really presentable, and it's apparently working very well.
Yeah, well.
They do a lot of homeless people helping them,
Well, I think the responsibility of the economic group to maintain that, maintain the thrift store, and provide whatever help they need and whatever means they can get it, I don't think it's really a call for the city council. I think it's basically just a business choice on your guys' end. If you need to use other people or people that are interested in helping out, there's lots to do in a situation like that. Barry?
As an economic development committee, we've never had a revenue stream. We've always been hampered by not being able to do much because we didn't have any money. So this is one thing that will help us generate money for our group for future projects and as well as give back to the city.
Council, you interested in making a decision on this tonight? Pat?
I absolutely love the idea, but I gotta be honest with you, I've gotta give it some thought. I think, I've never dreamed of anything like this, and I think you've done an excellent job putting this together, and I can see a bright future with it. I don't like the 10-year lease, but on the same token, if you're gonna throw in that kind of money, I understand that too. But I'd be more in favor of saying, hey, show us what you can do in 1 year, and then we'll add 9 to it after that one. You know, to see if thing gets off the ground and go. But you can't go in there and throw $10,000 on a 1 year thing.
No, and I agree. I would, 10 years always seems like a forever to me. But I do also agree with the fact that at 10 grand, that's a serious upfront amount.
Well, you're taking a big burden off the city.
Yeah.
We'll have another building, so you're doing that.
That's big.
Yeah. Then plus the fact that when you leave in 10 years or whatever, it's gonna be a better property than it was when you took it. So I think it's a win-win for the,
It's a win if they leave that building to a bigger one. It's a win.
sure. And as far as a meeting room, we really don't need that as a meeting room because like you say, we'd help the scouts anywhere. We got lots of places we can put them. Don't have to be just there. And we don't have to have that to rent it out because we got the annex and we've got all the other stuff to rent out. So it fulfills a need. I'm impressed.
So your thoughts today is to give us some thought, or you think we ought to move?
I would like to give it thought and absolutely vote at the next meeting, that let's kick it around and see. There's other people are saying other things, like wanting to rent the property. So a lot of people want to buy it, but we can't sell that property. And a lot of people want to rent the property, but it's really hard for the city to rent out something to go in competition with somebody else that lives in the city. And what you're offering us, you're not in competition with anybody, you're gonna help everybody, so.
I think it'll really come back, and it's all gonna benefit Granby.
If anything, you'd be competing with yourself. You sell clothes, correct?
Yeah.
That way,
Yeah,
you're
I'm
gonna
in
be
competition
selling.
with myself.
Never thought of that.
Council, do you want to vote on this next meeting?
I'm fine with voting today, but I'll do whatever the
Bill?
council overall. I mean, I've seen their projects. I actually sit back and listen to their meetings. And I've seen what Sarah can do. I'm sold on it.
Bill, what do you?
I would be ready to vote today if the rest of the council decided to.
I would entertain a motion in a second.
I'd make a motion to go ahead and allow the Economic Development Committee to rent out that building at $1 a year for the next 10 years.
Is it important, Jacob?
I second it.
I've got a motion and a second to agree to the process of renting out to the economic development for the purpose of a thrift store for $1 a year for 10 years. All those in favor?
I'm not gonna be the guy that says no. I'm not gonna do that.
3-0. Thank you, sir.
Howard Jacob's got a question.
Jacob?
It might be a good idea to make sure this is something the city can actually, an agreement the city can actually legally enter into, because it is to benefit a group that's, like, it's a public building to be used for a private group.
And you did that last year
With-
to Todd Klaus, correct? It's been rented
I
out.
guess we did, yeah, I guess we did. Okay.
I think they checked on it again.
Okay. Yeah, I think we did, then he said,
If you can rent it to one nonprofit,
Yeah.
you can rent it to another.
Okay, so I do have a motion, a second, and a vote 3-0. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. I'm beyond excited.
Looking for kids.
There's another idea, I had somebody approach me about it, adopting a window. Where like, certain person would say, you know, Heavenly Ocean could adopt a window down there and put just a little placard on it saying this window belonged, or it was adopted by.
That's a good idea.
I don't know.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, You'd adopt the screen. But
Anyhow, we'd be, I think the community would be more than happy to help.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you, guys.
All right, moving right along, new business, bills to pay, balances on hand, you've had a chance to take a look at those? Is there any questions from the council on any of that part?
I just had one question. On the Missouri Department of Natural Resources for $2,597, what is that?
Privacy fee.
Privacy fees, okay, gotcha.
Okay.
Privacy for what?
Primacy.
Say again?
Primacy, not privacy.
Any other questions? Entertain a motion if those are acceptable.
So good.
Motion on the floor.
Second.
A motion and a second to accept the bills to pay and balances on hand. All those in favor? 3-0. Next, the budget 2021-22. Got a little discussion on that Thursday, little work meeting, ask a few questions here and there. You may have another question or two. I'll try to answer those if you need that.
I have a question.
Martin?
Well, what happens, I usually go into Granby to check on my house, make sure the crackheads don't come in. Pretty well, I always go ahead and pull in, go ahead and see what is on the bulletin board. And that's another thing I think you should do, rather than, you know, since a lot of prices have been city clerk, they no longer go ahead and post public notices all on the window or front door so people could see it here. So anyway, I came in the day before, the night before, went ahead, there's nothing on the wall. I come in the night before and there's something in there, and I have no idea what it is. I thought it might be a tip meeting, it might be something like that here. So I go ahead and it'll probably be at 5 o'clock, so I go ahead and call around noon, and then I'm told that you already had a budget committee, budget meeting. Now, the budget, from what I gather, was years ago, what, $1,875,000. So it's probably up to $2 million. And what happens is that nobody knows in advance, simply by being able to go ahead and look on the window and see what is going on. So I went ahead and got in some of an argument about yet another sunshine violation, was told, no, it was up there the night before when it wasn't. And, you know, fine here, but when you're going ahead and discussing spending what, you know, nearly $2 million, I think that the average citizen who at least goes ahead and goes by, and I didn't have my video camera, what I would have done is hopefully there wouldn't have been glare from the tattoo parlor, but I probably would have gone ahead and zeroed in to see what it was and when it was here. I sort of think
Is
that
that,
we'll go ahead and set.
would that be your question?
Well, the question is that why don't you simply get to where people can go ahead and find out about this, rather than rely on a webpage which isn't updated or
Duly
signed
noted.
or whatever?
Duly noted.
Well, the question is, why can't you do that?
No, just duly noted. We'll look into that. Okay, anything else?
Was any vote taken?
Do what?
Says no vote was taken.
No, we didn't vote on the budget, we just discussed it.
Do we have a motion to accept the budget 2021-2022?
Yes, I can make the motion to accept the 2021-2022 budget.
Got a motion and a second to accept the 2021-2022 budget. All those in favor? 3-0.
Is that budget?
All right, the proposal from the Granby telephone for a phone system. You have that.
Right there.
Which is basically what this, in layman's terms, it's upgrading our phones, which are not capable of handling the fiber optics, to phones that can. You guys know more about this than I do. I had a hard time with a Zoom call today. Anyhow, this is phones that basically gives us, well, they're better phones than what we have, but the price is, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, a little cheaper than per month than what we were paying.
Overall, they're saying the bill should probably be cheaper.
Overall, the bill will be a little bit cheaper. And so this will upgrade us into phones that will work with the fiber optics. And so we just need an okay from the council to accept, or go looking for somewhere else. We've done business with the Granby Telephone Company for God knows how long. They treated us pretty well, taking care of us. Any questions on that?
I have a question.
I'm asking the council right now. Any questions from the council on that, any of that proposal?
I move we accept it.
Martin? What'd you?
Well, just like, a question I had about the budget, is it listed in the city council packet that I bought?
This didn't come in till recent. They were working on this proposal, it just didn't come until recent.
Are you talking about the budget or the phone thing?
The phone thing.
No, okay, on the phone, I don't see that also in the packet.
Yeah, it wasn't in our packet either, we just got it.
So if we're at, I have a motion on the floor,
Second.
motion and second to accept this proposal from the Granby Telephone Company. All those in favor? 3-0. All right, talking about zoning and building code, something that we've been introducing to the community with some good input, I thought, from social media anyhow, on ideas and thoughts. My intention when we started this, I think, and I think Pat also, was to look at our town as a whole and see what was available to anybody that thought about putting up shop in Granby. If they were looking for a business, ideal location, maybe the Highway 60 corridor or part of this main street. In commercial zoning, could we make this available to them and still be at peace with those that have been residents in those areas for years and years? I'm open to conversation on this, council. I've had several thoughts in my mind. I've even thought about, does Granby need to seek an outside source that is more schooled on zoning and those types of things to help us set an order in place? There's a few things that I would like to see, and that's in residential area. If you have a house, that's your house, it's residential, always will be residential. You have the ability to sell that as commercial property on 60 corridor, or sell it as residential again. If there is no resident, then offer that property as a residential or a commercial property with the hopes of attracting a business to our town, and it could be literally anything. I would entertain thoughts from the council. I would even entertain some thoughts from those that are present here, if you have an idea or two.
Well, I have a question. Because I live right across from the post office, so I'm right on Main Street. If that zoning happened, and you'll probably know this better than I will, but what would happen to the value of my property? if it was an offer that, you could do commercial right there, or you could be residential, how would it value or devalue my property?
Well, if you was able to do residential or commercial, help me, if you can, does it help with giving you two ways to go, in selling?
Sure, it would increase the value, I would think.
That would be a question for the assessor's office, I think.
Yeah.
But get them in here.
We would also have to do with geographical nature too, and how much it would require to build up the spot or to take off from soil.
We've all probably looked at properties on 60, and some of them, coming up for sale and,
Property, it always depends on its highest best use.
Yeah.
That's the value of your property, is its highest best use.
And mine it's a small plot I got there, you seriously doubt anyone would want it for commercial, but it's just the whole thought process of how would it affect residential property if they could go either way?
what? Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, without zoning right now, I mean, they have that option. You can sell it as
Yes.
commercial or regular now and
Yes.
say you put a business in it or not, so that doesn't quite clarify.
I guess my push on this was basically, is not for our commercial opportunities to begin to shrink, because we're basically developing as residential on the only business area that we have, and that's our Highway 60 corridor or the Main Street area. Am I all wet here, or?
Well, see, there's different types of commercial also, and I think that may be where you're kind of missing it, honestly, because when you just say commercial, I mean, I think you're thinking of like attractive business sites and
Yeah, I
stores,
guess.
fronts,
Yeah,
okay?
instead
See,
of
that's
like
one
industry.
type of commercial, but when you go commercial, there's other types of commercial that are industrial commercial.
Right.
So, I think you probably need to study that just a little bit more,
Yeah, we
the
should.
classes of zoning and
Sally,
commercial, because it's not
my
as.
suggestion here is, do we need some help in this endeavor?
I think we need to understand it better before we. jump
Yes.
into it.
Oh, I
Thank
think
you,
too.
I do too.
Don't we
I
have an
think that it's,
industrial park out there by, headed like to the school?
I don't think it's considered industrial park, I think it ended up that way. Am I wrong, Jim?
No, that's just one business and they own everything around it.
Yeah, nothing is zoned.
Okay.
I've read on zoning, and there's a list of pros and there's a list of cons, and they're about right here in my book. I mean, there's so much, and it's such a deep subject. I've even called the county commissioner to visit with him about it.
But it is like you said, right now, you can sell your property any way you want to. If you're out on Highway 60 and you want to throw up a sign saying, ooh, I got commercial frontage for sale,
Yeah.
Yeah.
there's nothing to say you
Yeah.
can't, because it could be,
Yeah, if you're in a prime location, you can say, I've got.
but
good
because
commercial
it's,
property.
there's no zoning
But most
to
of the
dissuade
time,
people
Sally,
from that.
what I'm looking at, most of the time, if you're looking to sell, for whatever reason, you're just looking for the highest price.
Highest and best use.
And, well, and then whoever buys it can do with it what they want to, on that property. Should we, as a city, have some say over what happens in our prime locations?
Or in your backyard, honestly, because when we bought our house, there was nothing beside our house. Now there's a daycare that you hear doors slamming, starting at 6 o'clock every morning. So, I mean, you've got to consider that aspect as far as, do you want a building put right beside your house, Billy?
Nope.
That's gonna sell and have people in at whatever hours they're opening and operating?
I don't want it, but it's liable to happen.
That's what I'm saying, you need to make sure that the citizens that are residents that are paying taxes for the land that they own don't have a business that's gonna affect your
And
way
you
of
know,
life.
Doreen, most approaches to zoning, and from what I've looked at, boy, it has some deep-seated concerns, one way or the other. They're looking for something to come in there like let's say, for instance, I'm just using this as an example, nothing has been said. But let's say that a truck stop wants to come in where the open field is, where the flea market used to be, the old flea market area. Well, that's gonna affect his house. because of that, should I stop the truck stop from coming in? Is that a decision that the city's gonna have, is that a hard decision that we're gonna have to come up with?
If you go zoning.
There have been people, and like, I know there was a daycare, and when you brought up the daycare, there was, in Neosho, they have been denied in residential districts to open beauty shops and daycares and stuff in certain areas because the neighbors say no,
That's what I was gonna say.
and the city does turn it down.
Zoning residential is so much easier than zoning commercial.
Yes.
Because you've got your residential houses already there, and you can say, okay, this is residential. And I know there are people that start their businesses out of their home, and that happens. But if you were to zone residential, you have less people upset as opposed to zoning commercial, because once you zone commercial and they sell that property, it can no longer be.
Well, but the place she's talking about was originally put in there as a business.
Right.
It was are we talking about the Nazarene Church?
No, it was the doctor's office.
His doctor's office, they didn't open till
It-
8 or 9 o'clock.
Yeah, it is a business.
That's the one by your house.
Yeah,
I don't
but that's what I'm saying, I mean, I don't care, I'm up by 6 o'clock, but Billy might not want a truck stop next door, that's what I'm saying, that's why you don't want a house, and then a business, and then 2 houses, and then 3 business. Where's the line?
Are you saying then generally that what we should do is just do nothing there, basically let whoever buys that piece of property do with it what they want to do? Because they may wanna put something in, they may not. My concern as mayor, I guess, is, should I make room for the possibility of somebody coming in and starting a shop? And like Jamie said, there are home shops that, say, a body shop would start at somebody's home, and the next thing, he's in his garage spray painting a car. Well, you're gonna smell that whenever you're having a cookout outside. You know, I think it's important for a town of our size to consider this. But I'm gonna have to agree with most everybody in here. I don't know exactly what direction to go. I just think we need to move in a direction that works for everybody in town. I think there's a possibility that might upset some for a bigger picture. What do you think? I don't like to say that, but I think it could happen. Any other ideas? I appreciate the input. Martin?
Well, right now, on March 30th, went ahead and filed in form of conference a lawsuit against City of Granby, State of Missouri, and about 45 total defendants. And I'm being slimed in federal court because the magistrate judge doesn't want to go ahead and honor my informal policy. But one of the things, I brought up about how I got elected and was not allowed to go ahead and take my seat, and a number of other things. But one of the things I went ahead and mentioned here was you guys getting on my property without a court order and bulldozing a bunch of my stuff down. Now, I was pretty well hot and bothered and was actually thinking of shooting a bunch of you at the time, but be that as it may, one of the things I'm asking for is, well, because I was harassed at the tax levy thing by one of the female cops, I'm asking to pretty well de-annex my property and my church properties out of the city of Granby and allow anybody else who wants to leave as well. So the thing is that you go ahead and pass these laws. And just like with Joyce Mann and her.
Okay, that's it. You're not asking a question, you're making a statement.
Well, no, I'm simply saying is that since you do not enforce your own ordinances,
That's it.
fairly.
All right,
Mark, I have a
I'm going to
question.
pass more ordinances, which.
hold it.
But brought up by the courts here.
Hold it.
not very
That's it.
dismissed. What do you mean
Go
that's
ahead.
it?
I have a question for you.
Sure.
You said you'd like your properties to be de-annexed.
Yeah.
Are you interested in selling them?
No, my stepdaughter, she hasn't paid her rent here, and she called me this morning, and she wants to move in, and I said yes.
Okay.
But the thing about it is that some of them, I might very well, but what happens is I have this character named Brian Rio, and he is, the Ohio federal judges got $2.75 million against me right now.
Okay, so that wouldn't be something you're planning on doing in the future, would be selling them?
I might be interested, but on the other
Okay.
hand, he only got a $400 judgment against the Church of Jesus Christ Christian there in Mason, Missouri. So I'm gonna go ahead and sell it as a church property, I might be able to do it.
All right,
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any Danny?
Years ago, there were a lot more businesses in town than there is now. And
Yeah.
we had all that without any zoning or anything. There wasn't an empty building on this street. We don't have nothing no more. And-
Well, people choose to go where they wanna go, for whatever
That's right.
reason. Of course, I wasn't, you were here, I might not have been here, and I don't know what all happened, and why they left. I don't know if they just stopped doing business, they retired, did they,
It was mainly the school leaving town.
That's
was that what it was?
That's
So
absolutely.
It
so
did affect
businesses
things
went
a
with
lot,
it.
I think.
Yes.
Do you foresee the opportunity for new businesses to come?
Well, we gotta get a water system.
Well, we are gonna work on that.
But yeah, I can see it, maybe.
But what's your thoughts then about?
If they go ahead and bypass Granby with 60 around it, it's gonna go worse than it is now.
Well, we still house, and 2,200 people, and basically if we can hold them to just a good place to live, then we may lose some, maybe a long time down the road on that, but some traffic.
We need to work on housing for people. Most of their business, they go to, most people go shopping anymore.
So what people.
But if we had a good housing for people.
Yeah, there's
I
a
agree
shortage
with
right
that,
now.
I agree with it, I agree 100% with housing, something that is affordable.
That'd help town more than anything.
Well, and the other thing is the event they had here downtown, that was amazing.
It was
And
wonderful.
everybody that went through on 60 highway saw us. We stopped traffic crossing the highway, and that is good. And that's why I love the idea of the mural on the side of the building. We need stuff on that Highway 60 corridor that makes our town attractive to those people driving through
Make them
on
stand out.
Highway 60.
And
We've
this-
gotta stand out, that sign down there by the caboose and stuff, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That whole area is. And we've got to make them stop and look around and say, whoa, because that's an event I used to drive to other cities to go to.
And
And
our,
it was here.
Old Mining Town
It was
Days,
awesome.
we can have a huge outreach this year specifically, cause it's right after the pandemic and we're all open and stuff. If we advertise that not just here, but in other places, in magazines and stuff like that, you could have different people coming in here.
From a business owner's point of view, my goal is to bring tax dollars to my town. I don't stay open because of the citizens of Granby. The ones that do shop with us is wonderful, but we have people any given day, we'll have a busload of people from Wichita or
The quilt,
wherever. But
the
those
bus
kind of
thing.
businesses are the ones that would succeed in a smaller town because people are willing to drive the extra mile to get to them.
Yes.
That's,
Well, I know that Sarah and the group and the economic group, I think they want to encourage the small type of business that starts relatively small but is energetic, and then maybe move on from that into, I guess, in zoning. And I think Sally helped to clarify some of this. When you're talking about commercial, you're not necessarily, you're talking about, is there a place for a business to throw up a brick and mortar somewhere?
We really have,
something, a
we have
leather
very
shop or
little,
leather shop
we have
or-
very little open land going up and down
Well,
60 in
yeah.
city limits, except for the
I just
portion where
didn't
you.
wanna lose it, at least the front, right on the highway. Because it could end up just whatever.
It's gonna take the little businesses, because the only franchises that's doing anything in the small towns now is Dollar General, But you go down, there's nothing but a Dollar General in Seneca that's big. Billings, Dollar General's the biggest thing, Marionville, it's all the little mom and pop shops and stuff like that, and all of it. blame Walmart, who you gotta blame, they killed in the Neosho Square,
Yeah,
you know.
there's something
There's a
else
little
you
bit of
guys.
money going back to the square, I think, to a
Yeah, but
certain
they're all,
extent,
you know, they're small,
some legal offices and such.
yeah, I mean, you know, other than that, you know, small.
Sean?
There's something else you guys need to just take a look at. When I worked for Roll-Off Trash Service, they were in Neosho. Before they went to Neosho, I was managing some of the stuff he did down in Arkansas. And he looked at all the little bitty towns, and I suggested Granby, they've got room there. You could set up there and run the trucks out of there. 3 days later, he came back to me and said that whenever he talked to the local customers he had in this area, the first thing they all said is, you don't wanna move to Granby because their utilities are high.
When was this?
It was like 15 years ago, okay?
They're higher now.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's something that you may wanna look at and do whatever you need to do. Of course, the more people we have, the less it should cost you guys to get fuel. And once we get the water set up, that would be much better and you could pull more commercial businesses in, but.
When you
Just
talk
telling you
about-
what he
when you talk
said.
about- When you talk about pulling commercial businesses in, are you looking like maybe the big players, like the fast food or the other places like that, or just lots more mom and pop shops?
Fast
Or
food
just
will
any-
cut the population, that traffic ain't here for.
Well, a
That's what-
small Sonic,
That's
yeah.
what they say.
Personally, I think you're better off getting more of a mom and pops
Yeah.
Yeah.
because people, like I said, people drive distances to unique. I mean, how many of you guys have driven to a town that you'd never go to just to eat at a restaurant because it's really cool? You guys, we
Absolutely.
went just to see one. You guys took me all the way to the square in Carthage that I
It's
had
even
no
better
idea.
now, by the way.
Huh?
It's
It's
better
even better
now.
now.
Yeah, and
They got a
I
new
never
chef.
went down
What's
there.
the name of it?
Woodshed.
The woodshed, it was
I've heard
unbelievable.
that.
It was like a
Right.
big,
I've heard that,
they
yeah.
didn't see
It's
it
good
first because of our
place to
big building down there. And it's just like that giant building. You walk
Bell
in, it's
Square.
an art, it's an
Art
art
gallery.
studio,
Yeah.
art gallery,
Yeah.
everything under the sun for sale, and this awesome dinner in the back. I mean, it was just unbelievable. And I would have never went there for that. I had no idea that was so neat. Now I bring everybody. I'm like, I wanna go, you know.
They got the
So I
tables that
think
are
there's a-
heated around the outside edge, yeah.
I think there's a legitimate excitement for the town and its growth. I look it up, I said this before, people come to a small town like ours for certain things. They come for the kids in school, for amenities, they wanna be able to get some of their general items close, like the dollar store or some of the pop-up shops or the Mercantile or the Sunshine or
It's
some
just
of the
hard
others.
for those mom and pop shops to survive that first 2 years until they can start making enough to live on. Okay, yeah, anyone that's had a business will understand that, especially the mom and pops.
And Sally, correct me if I'm wrong here, in small business, most of what happens in your business is because of what you do. Am I right? Lives and dies on the proprietor. If it's not a good one, you're just probably not gonna make it. But we've had some good ones out here. Yeah.
No, I mean, like,
Oh.
lives and dies, like somewhat, I mean, sometimes you're handed kind of a rough deal. And
Well,
then you gotta
true.
make it through a winter if you, like, I had 2 jobs getting mine going because I couldn't afford to pay the.
And see,
the-
a lot of
let's just
people don't
say
have
that you're
the-
just mean.
Oh, yeah, that's.
People
Don't work
sit
that
down,
hard.
like
Yeah,
to come in your
you
shop.
could ruin a business very easily, yes.
That's what I was talking about.
Well, the reason I brought up utilities is because some cities are offering startup packages to some businesses. Discounts for, first 6 months or something like that when you set up for utilities or whatnot. So that's the reason I brought that up, because Neosho is offering a package.
Look at Neosho's population compared to
Yeah,
Granby.
I know, exactly.
Call around, compare utility bills
In
of
small
towns our
towns.
size compared to our utility bills.
Yeah,
Ours are about as cheap as theirs around. We made the offer, when ASI came to town.
right.
Scott Beckwith called me and Don and asked if he could sit down and we could work out some kind of a deal on utilities. He come from Monett. he brought his ideal down. It was a better ideal for the city than what we were gonna offer. We didn't even make an offer, we accepted his, because our utilities were,
Most
Better than what he was paying on that.
businesses, place their cost to do business in their startup plan. In other words, they
Yes.
know how much they're gonna pay for utilities, they know how much they're gonna pay for food, they know how much they're gonna pay for items, inventory. They put that all together into a plan that they're gonna open up a store, they're gonna this, that, or the other. And, I'm not saying that, Sean, that we couldn't help, but, most people have that utility plan worked into their own budgets for a startup.
well, what we done with Brass Eagle was, I believe they had an agreement to employ X amount of employees for, a discount. You know, if they got below that, then they went back to paying, you know, that way we had, say, 100 employees, we had 100 people coming to Granby. So,
Well, I don't think we'll go any further with this. I think we've heard a lot of different ideas that we can, as a council, try to digest and learn from. I think we continue studying and learning what's good for our town and what would be popular for us. And I think we can, at some time, and I don't want this to be a long time, but at some time, we'll make a decision on what to do when it comes to zoning. Also, we'll adopt a building code that works for the city of Granby. Probably it would be something similar to some of the other small towns, Seneca or.
I think we can have
Gwinnett.
more people in Granby if we can give them housing. But when we give them housing, we have to protect them, that a machine shop's not gonna go in next door. So I think it really boils down right now, our housing. We need housing. I see ads all the time, people looking for rental housing,
Yeah.
looking for a house to buy.
Every day.
Yeah.
So as a start, are you proposing that we zone residential and leave out the other, or, because you can just zone a certain spot, you don't have to zone
That's right.
commercial and residential.
My intention is to, put our concern on our, what we consider business corridors, which is Highway 60 and Main Street. I think we need to study this really good and come up with a plan that works, because we do have residential already there. Bill lives on 60, I live on 60, but I don't wanna make a decision just based on my property, or Bill probably the same way. We'll do this as a whole, something that will work. I'm not sure how, Jamie, that we can, zone residential.
Residential
What do you
protects
suggest?
those citizens from that. It allows, okay, if it was zoned residential, then if someone was gonna put a daycare in their house and the neighbors protested, then they would have the right
I
to
see.
bring it to
Yep, I
council,
see
and
that
you could
now.
say, no, that business could not go in that
I
residential
can
area.
see that then.
It actually, like, that's the highest best use thing, because if they put in a daycare, it might devalue the properties next door.
Yep. But yeah, you don't have to.
Commercial
zone the
inside
entire
residential's
town
not good.
every time you can just zone sections, like you can zone residential, you can zone commercial, you can zone at different times too. Everything doesn't have to be zoned all at once either. So I'm just trying to figure out what everybody's main concern is. So your main concern would be that, the commercial area, and then your main concern is the residential area. Okay, just processing, sorry.
If you bring in houses, it'll bring the businesses.
Yeah.
You gotta have houses,
Yep.
it'll bring the businesses.
That's right, I agree.
Well,
You ain't gonna have
and I-
business
and I
if you don't
agree-
have houses.
And I agree
Clean,
with you.
affordable housing.
Yes.
And I agree
Clean,
with that.
affordable.
But should we bring them on to the highway, Highway 60?
The housing don't have to be on the highway.
Well, right, and that's my concern.
How, I mean, my big thing, and I've seen this over and over again, because it is a concern, like, there are people constantly looking for places to live. Then you drive around and there's houses that are empty and falling down.
Yep.
And then you've got lots that are empty. We built our house new, and our house was $140-some odd thousand when we built it, and it appraised at 93.
Yeah.
So my concern is, how do you get people that wants to come in and build here when your value is not holding like it should when you're building?
Well, it's because we don't clean up our town. We gotta get rid of the old houses that's falling down in town.
Okay.
That'll bring the value up.
Yes, you can build anything right next to your house.
We've got,
It cost 140 something and it appraised out to 93. Yeah, yeah.
we've got a contractor right now though
Yes,
that's
sir.
building houses, and, he built one when he started the block work, it sold.
What was that at?
Up by the, on Cherry Street in Grove, up by the daycare, Head Start. And he's got, I think he's gonna build 5, maybe more up there. And I'm not sure they don't already have one of them sold, he ain't put a shovel in the ground.
For housing development over in Neosho, I mean, they list them before they're ever built, and they're
Already sold,
many
sold,
people
they're
sold months
sold before they
before
were
they're
I
built.
realize this,
You know, what Schumer
I
mentioned
realize
this,
this is
yeah.
off subject, but how they doing that with the price of lumber? Building them and selling them so
Because the
fast?
houses are selling twice as much what they're worth buying.
So how do
Yeah.
we get, but how do we get investors decided to go into our town? I've heard the whole Schubert Mitchell story, you know, I talked to John Stouffer once and he was telling me all about this. It's hard to get them to come here, those kind of things. How do we get those people to invest and build these houses here? How do we get people excited to
Water and
clean the
sewer.
property?
Water and sewer.
So we need to go back to.
We gotta
how
have
many
water and
discussions
sewer.
do we
We have
have on
housing.
our water? I've been on this council since April and we haven't discussed water at all. And I saw 3 leaks on the way here.
Well,
there's a big one bubbling up down there in front of the
Middle of the
Granby
street.
house, yeah.
So that's, I think we've gotta get to the root of the problem.
absolutely. Water is a main concern. And we'll end up having to do, Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, we'll have to do a water study to find out what the city of Granby needs and what it's gonna cost. We're gonna have to put that forth to those that would, apply for necessary grants to help us and.
I've got 10 acres out here for housing. I can't get them because no water, no sewer.
Yeah.
No sewer, you got water out there.
Yeah, there's water, but there's no sewer.
Why do you not have sewer out there?
Well, you gotta have both.
Why does he not have sewer out
The
there?
sewer stops before it gets there,
Okay.
Is that in the city limits?
yes.
Yeah.
So our sewer doesn't reach our entire city limits?
No,
Correct.
there's a few places that's,
Why is that?
Could have been not economically feasible, may not have been enough housing down there.
For us.
My property is actually at the end of the main.
Is that something we can?
Is this something we can fix in the new sewer system that's coming down the pike?
No,
I know they looked at some areas that were unsewered, and the cost was just,
Even
Staggering.
even in this, new sewer
yeah.
proposal?
Yep.
Well, I don't like that,
No.
obviously. But there's also that Abundant Life Church in Neosho has a septic tank, they can't get sewer.
Neither can I, because the bedrock's only like 2 foot down.
So I know this does happen in towns, I guess I
A
have
lot
to
to do with
like
the
it.
terrain, and like you said, rock could be a factor.
So a septic's an option then, so he.
if the sewer is not accessible.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, then
But
who's
see, okay,
responsible
like,
for building that?
like our 10 acres, that would restrict how many houses could be there, because septics have to have lateral lines, and you've gotta have enough ground. So you couldn't do, a minimum lot in Neosho is 7,000 square feet. Your lot has to be, say, 70 by 100. That's the minimum you can build on in the city of Neosho. You couldn't build a house because you gotta have a septic, so you gotta have lateral lines. At 10
Are there-
acres,
are
but
there-
that 10 acres might only hold 4 houses.
In Neosho, are they the same way, having the same problems? Some parts of Neosho just can't reach the sewer.
Not
Yeah.
in the housing developments. I don't know of any in the housing developments that are having that issue. Some of the older things, I don't know if they ever got connected, but I know it was gonna be a real expensive venture. One of the motels was on septic.
Wow.
Well, like I said, the Abundant Life Assembly is on septic, they the sewer. They're on the 49 bypass.
I wonder about those houses right there around them. They're on sewer, I believe.
Well, okay, but that, a town of 2,200 guys, we're a large community. And so we have to take a look at these things and discuss them, and water is a serious issue. And we've got the sewer project going. It's gone slow because of that COVID has stalled us big time, but it's moving on now. My intention was when they got somebody out there digging in the ground, a water study to get started. But I'm not sure I can't walk and chew gum at the same time. Water, all you get to is get a water study. What is a water study cost?
About 40,000.
Is it 40? That's a lot of money. But the engineering crews, they go throughout all the area that would need water, and they plan the entire thing out and then give you a figure on what it is gonna cost. And you move from there into the planning stage and the money stage and contacting the USDA for the block grants, and you go different directions and obtain the necessary finances. So it's doable, and it can be done relatively quick.
Water runs uphill, but sewer don't.
No.
That's,
Yeah, I agree.
water can go anywhere.
Yeah.
It's the sewer's the problem on some of it.
Why don't you read the 2014 to 2015 water survey? You paid, what, $35,000?
Well, I'm not so sure that we can't go back and pick up some of the Jim.
It said that it would cost around $1 million to go ahead and put a tower at well number 3, and you go ahead and work on the pipes here, but you wouldn't gain grants unless you went ahead and raised the water bill by 229%. So pretty well, this was at the end of the Oyster administration, and your predecessor decided to go ahead and spend $30,000 for a smoker, which was not used, and for a camera, which was not used, and you guys raised the rates 110% instead of 229%.
Well,
And you have even worse things here. So why would things change when things are even more
that's
expensive 6 years later?
that's not correct. But moving right along,
Go ahead, go ahead.
there's probably not a lot more to say on this subject, but I do believe that this is something that, as a council, we need to study out. And at when there's time for a vote, we'll vote on accepting certain building rules, and then we'll touch different parts of the zoning process that we feel comfortable with and we can agree on, okay? And it possibly could even be, take somewhat of a work station plan, okay? Let's just end that right there. Okay, resolution for fireworks. You need to read that, Carrie.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Whereas the city of Granby will allow fireworks to be sold beginning June 20th, 2021 until July 10th, 2021, with hours of operation as follows: June 20th through June 24th, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. June 25th and 26th, 9 a.m. to 12 a.m. June 27th through July 1st, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. July 2nd through July 4th, 9 a.m. to 12 a.m. July 5th through July 10th, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Whereas the city of Granby will allow citizens to shoot fireworks from June 20th through July 1st from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. July 2nd, 3rd, and 4th from 9 a.m. to 12 a.m. July 5th from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Now therefore be it resolved by the Granby Board of Aldermen of the city of Granby as follows. This resolution is in conjunction with Article 14 fireworks, Section 210.740 and 210.750 for year 2021.
That resolution just needs a vote. Am I right?
Yes.
Resolution just needs a vote.
Yes.
Motion to accept the resolution and then a vote. Any questions about about this?
Do we normally allow them to shoot them on July fifth?
Until the 10th.
You always allow them to shoot the day after.
I was just curious. Out of interest.
Any other questions?
I'll move to accept the resolution as is.
I would second that.
I've got a motion second to accept this resolution as stated. All those in favor? 3-0. All right, Victor, purchase for the wastewater treatment plant. I think you have that in your folder.
Yeah, we were having some problems with the lift station out there on 60. Pumps just kept tripping out. The phase out there just at the end of its useful life, which converts single phase to three phase. They're three-phase motors. But we need to purchase 2 variable drives. This is similar to what we've done to the Heber lift station and the water tower lift station. I'm sure Danny appreciates the buzzer not going off no more out there.
Yes, we appreciate that.
Just old technology, it's wore out. And these variable drives are working real good at the other stations. So we'll need 2 variable drives at $1,750, a pump controller for $350. And then I'd also like to get a backup spare pump. One of them that's out there right now is really old, real wore out, not pumping real good. So to have a spare 5-horsepower pump would be good. The station's all got 2 pumps in them. But you get hit by lightning or something, you know, you can lose 2 pumps. So you always want one on the shelf.
That's a $4,850 total expense that
Yes.
would come out of your repair
I think
budget.
it's the capital replacement, yeah, because it's something that lasts more than 5 years, I think is what it classifies as.
Council, any question? I've always said that I just hate to look at these numbers. I understand part of doing business.
You know, being able to do it in-house, I mean, I've looked at before,
Savings a lot of labor.
big dollars, electrician-wise. Michael's been able to put all these in himself. He's real good as far as electrical. He's been using the old panels, stripping them out, reusing them. Some of these panels can cost, you know, $5,000 just for an empty panel, and then start building from there. So he's really saved us a lot of money, so. And he's done 2 of them, they work great. No more alarms since we've done Tower Road out there, so. And I'm sure, I haven't done it yet, but I want to look at the electrical savings on these. We should be able to really see an improvement in electrical cost on these also.
Council? Entertain a motion. You don't have any more questions?
I'll make a motion that we go ahead and, we go ahead and do the purchase request for Victor to complete these,
Project.
I would second that.
Got a motion second to allow wastewater to make some purchases in a total of $4,850. All those in favor? 3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Victor. The last thing on the list was basically added, it's basically a nuisance abatement. Pat had brought up the noise level of trucks coming through town, the jake brakes that are applied on the hills. I understand that we try to make some allowances for trucks that are trying to maneuver through town. And I can appreciate the traffic going through town. Matter of fact, just a side note, boy, doesn't it seem like a lot of traffic lately on the 60 highway? Danny?
I drove a truck, there was no sense in having a Jake brake in town. This town at all.
I did it on purpose.
Yeah, they do it on purpose.
I think you're the one that was responsible for getting signs put up about a
Yeah.
noise ordinance, weren't you?
I put up for the noise, there's no sense in it. Now, coming off a mountain, you
There
need
actually is a
them, but
sign.
not
Live
here
out
in
there where
town.
I do.
shooting, shaking my house right off the
They're hitting
foundation.
them at 80 mile an hour.
Yeah.
But they don't just say no Jake breaks, it just says noise
Should we
ordinance.
Yeah, you can't say no Jake breaks.
Yeah.
You need the no Jake break sign.
Well, you can't specify no Jake
I've
breaks. That's
seen
a,
that though.
that is a manufacturer
That's
of an engine brake.
out west, they got it.
We enforce
Maybe you should
noise
say no
ordinance.
engine.
Yes, all you have to do is stop two or three of them, and they would stop it. You know,
But there is a noise ordinance,
Isn't there a sign somewhere? that
Yeah,
says
on both
noise?
sides of town.
both ends of town. He was instigated having those put up when we lived on the highway.
There used to be signs up.
Yeah, you removed
So that's probably, it's probably a question for Jake and them, is it something that we should consider enforcing?
Yes, we need to put up signs again that actually say no engine braking.
Yeah.
That just stopped two or three of them, the rest of them get the word and they wouldn't do it.
Right, and then.
Just a
when we-
warning.
then-
Yeah, you don't even have to warn them, just stop them, because they don't wanna take off on these hills.
No.
They
Oh
won't do
boy,
it.
no.
They won't do it again.
So
What
when they
about-
get
what
stopped,
about
be
other
sure they're on the
noise?
uphill
What about
side.
other noise problems?
The Jake breaks is the main
The
thing.
main one, I can hear them, boy.
Oh. We can hear them where we live.
I think it's one company, really truly.
No.
One company.
No.
No,
No?
Mostly in grain haulers,
most of it's grain hauling, but it's all of them.
stacks up their ground.
Yeah.
You ought to live down there where I do.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, I don't know, you end up having it. but
That's true, girl.
I remember
What happened to that sign? They never did pay attention to it.
No, they don't.
served 30 days in jail for burnt out headlight, and pretty well the matter is that, pretty well you only have jurisdiction in prosecution, survey, and under the right
Yeah.
statutes
She doesn't
and
recognize
ordinances.
me. Yeah, I know.
Essentially, you have limited control over the traffic flow.
Yep, that's right.
Over what's going on.
All right, we got it.
Yeah.
We got it.
Especially if they fight.
Okay, we need, and I was, my consideration. My consideration is also, nuisance, as it's stated, could be anything from smell to barking, could be.
Yeah.
My suggestion as a mayor is, in town, let's cohabitate together. In other words, be aware of what's going on at your house, how it affects the neighbor. We like to have our get-togethers and some parties, sometimes we like some music but think about the neighbor, okay? That's just part of living together. There's somebody, I forget who it was telling me, said, my God, the neighbor's burning plastic. And it's stinking up the whole neighborhood. Well, I can understand that. You're having a picnic and you got that stench coming over there of burnt plastic bottles. Anyhow, the reason I put this on here is everybody in town and who we come in contact, let's be aware of each other as a community, all right? That's all I have on that. Does anybody want to add? I'd entertain a motion to dismiss then.
So moved.
Got a motion and a second to dismiss the council meeting tonight. All those in favor? 3-0, we are dismissed at 7:24.